Look at this beautiful egret trying to catch some lunch, for breakfast or lunch. There's a lot of little fishies this warm weather, and things have started moving around, and there's a really springtime. Lots of fish to eat for that egret. I imagine that is a great place to catch some fish. It's shallow and the water kind of washes in, and so there's like a current for the fish to swim against, and when the fishies kind of swim against that current, they're sort of stationary, and I suspect that that's a perfect place to catch a fish for an egret, right where it's at. And you can see how the water's coming in, and it's rolling along. It's a little grassy area, starts to get shallow and narrow, and it creates a nice current coming right on in to where the fish can kind of pool up right there. Good fishing spot. Thought we might see her catch one. Oh, there he goes. The egrets and the herrings, they're in the same family, of course. They look similar in body shape, and that's a fairly young one. It's not a big one. By the end of this summer, she'll be a big one. This is beginning of the year here, where she's gonna get plenty of food and grow. Just found her another little fishing spot here. I imagine we have some road runoff here, but I don't think it would be too polluted. And the nice thing about this area is pollution is not too bad. We don't have any real big industry, and water tides coming in and out all the time, so it keeps things flushed out. So most of the areas around here, water doesn't get trapped, and so it should be pretty clean. I imagine at times when we haven't had rain, you know, the road runoff probably kind of builds up in here, but it looks nice and clear. A lot of fish. I can see them all just shooting and darting around. Minnows. Surprised we haven't seen her catch one. I don't know what she's waiting for. Maybe she's full. Maybe she's already eaten plenty. She's not putting much effort into it. It's just so nice and peaceful to watch a little animal in its habitat. Looks like the sun is shining bright today. It's a cool breeze coming off of the water. It's perfect. You just kind of meditate on these kinds of things. It's be in the present moment and be happy for being a part of it all. Plan out what it is you want to do, and then develop the discipline to do your thing. It's really easy to get derailed and manipulated by other people, especially people that are close to you. Especially people that are close to you that think that they have some use for you, in terms of you're supposed to be doing something that fulfills their idea of what life's supposed to be about, or their idea of what a human being is supposed to be. A human being is their own being. Now you're part of a collection of people, and that's important to know how to be a part of family and friends and society while at the same time fulfilling your commitment to yourself. The more you understand that you're your own person early in life, and that you've got permission from God, the universe, from me, from whoever, to tell everybody else, including me, whoever else, that you are you, and you have your own ambitions. And thank you very much for your concerns. And I have thought through my goals and my values, and you know, I think finding those values, and they've been written about for millennia, generation after generation, and you'll see the ones that come up over and over again as the ones that stand the test of time. And there's a reason for that. It's because having the right values, the right reasons for doing things within your own way are going to produce the best. They're going to give you the enrichment that you want. A lot of times people get caught up on trying to, we've tried so hard not to do things because we don't want to be manipulated by somebody else, so we end up being manipulated because we're still doing things because of that person or that entity or that whatever it might be, but we're trying to now do the opposite just to show them that we're not doing what they want to do, but still ironically, that's still being manipulated. So it's the idea is to be in the present moment with your own goals and own ambitions, and you're not trying to prove anybody right or wrong, except for when it's necessary as part of, you know, your mission. Like, in other words, if you have a mission to let's say it's politics or government or those kinds of things. I mean, of course, that's a different kind of challenge. And yes, there is a sort of in science, I mean, it's in everything. I just use that as an example because a lot of times we think of the revolutionaries as having a new way of thinking or a new way of, like in the Enlightened period and all the ideas of freedom and the individual and these liberties that the United States was built upon. They rose up, they came out of Europe, European philosophy, but Europe was so stagnant and was so old and so hard for things to change that it was really when the people could come over here to the New World and they can really implement those things. So in that sense, there was a proving of something, but it was more of it wasn't directly a personal kind of thing, like what I was talking about a minute ago. That's part of like a bigger mission. Like if you got a scientific theory and you want to prove that, well, you may have to disprove another theory, but that's a different kind of thing. As far as your interpersonal self, you want to be living your best life based on the best values that you can determine are the best values, and you can be willing to change your values too. Usually the core values, you can usually be fairly certain on those. And, you know, there's some core values that we know inside of us. You know, how to treat other people well, the golden rule, and those sorts of things. But you know, they get a little bit. Those core values there's values start to build on top of those, and they get a little less certain. And you can reevaluate those things, you know, and change a bit. But when you change your values, you want that to be a thoughtful process, right? Because you've established them. You got to reevaluate, and you have not just go at the whims of other people. You don't want those people on television just telling you how to be and live because they're on TV and you're not. That happens a lot. Or I'm just using that as one example. There's everywhere, all over the place. They don't have to be on television. They can be people that you meet and you think respect them, or they may be, a lot of times humans, there's no perfect human being. So every human being is flawed. So what we find a lot of times is a human being has figured out one aspect of life and one area of life, and it's very beneficial to kind of follow them in that area. But then because we've given them authority in that one area, we have a tendency to just automatically give them authority in another area. And when we look back in hindsight, we're like, well, that was where the person was flawed. We don't need to be following them there in that area of life. That's not what they're good at. You know, the area that they've got figured out and they're good at, that's a good place to follow them and to learn from them. And then we need another mentor from another area of life, you know, and kind of collective like that, because we're not going to ever be perfect human beings. Not a single one of us will be. But that's probably at some level a real part of the explanation for life in general, is that there is no perfect human. There is no perfection in that. You know, it's like, that's probably why to some degree life exists to begin with, is to keep trying against all these things. You know, it's just this learning process. Look at those little birdies chirping away. Where are they? Some springtime birds. This is a long video. I love you.